Hey there. It's been a minute since we saw everybody on the BWI Live Show. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. We got Sean Fitz and Nate Bauer with me today. As always, on our Tuesday show, we're going to talk about what we saw yesterday at camp. We got to see a full practice, and it was a spirited one. The pads were on, and they were popping. That's mostly what we're going to talk about today. In fact, that's all we're going to talk about today. And we're going to see where the I think it's Bane Train in the chat that says like he's on the lazy river for Penn State football this year. Whatever it is, he's just going to enjoy the ride. That's how I feel today. Wherever the conversation goes about what we saw and how we saw it, that's where we're going to go on the show today. So join us. Join us in the chat. Ask us your questions, things that you want to know about. There is one wrinkle, though, guys, that I have not shared with you. I, at some point, am going to start throwing in some hot takes that I have been workshopping, and I just want some feedback live here on the show. See what you guys think. You don't have to have hot takes. I'm not going to put you in that situation because these are journalists. These are people with big J journalism who like the facts and want to tell you the facts that are going on. So, Nate Bauer, our esteemed journalist, welcome to the show.
Hey.
Fitz, excellent intro. Fitz, big picture. Let's just start from this angle. What do you think so far of camp through 5 practices, 3 of which we've had a chance to see?
You're going to let him off the hook like that?
You know, I just, it's what he offered, and so I was going to take it and make it what I could. That's my plan.
Okay.
I'm not good at improv, guys. I even took a class, okay?
You didn't ask me a question. You said, hey.
But the generic big picture stuff, that's you, right? Like I'm looking third team defensive tackle. You're looking at Matt Campbell's sense of culture has got us all on the same page. And that's you, right? Big picture.
The landscape photos. I don't yeah. No, it's you know. They practiced yesterday. They hit each other. I didn't think that the running backs were spectacular, but I think that they have a defense that was designed to make the running game very hard to do. And so, like, this is the annual preseason. Is the defense really good or does the offense stink? Is like, it is timeless. Tale as old as time. And so now Penn State gets to experience it again this year.
Okay. I see why you didn't go to him.
Yep.
I withdraw my complaint.
Go ahead, Fitz.
Cut right into it.
It was just very funny. So yesterday, the defense ahead of the offense thing came up, as it does every year at this time. And then Jared and Arter last night on Big Ten Network said it 5 times, something like that. And it's no longer a worthwhile criticism or like we're just kind of there now, right? We just always assume that. And
surprise!
Can
you believe it?
There's reasons for that. It's harder for the offensive to get going. Obviously, you're putting together a new offensive line in the sense of, hey, these guys, half of them weren't there in the spring either. So like half is probably an overstatement, but like they're still working through that, and it's harder to block someone than to try to not be blocked. So I actually talked to Trevor Burr about that at Media Day, and he's like, yeah, we get in the way, and that's sometimes the best option. And it was Brock Riker that said, I usually make the right calls, but you know, if I make the wrong call, we're all going down together. Like we're all doing the wrong thing together, and that sometimes that's successful. So like that's a snapshot into learning offense and trying to put offense in motion versus, you know, trying to stop it. So that's why it's pretty typical. From a big picture standpoint, I think the team. I said it on a show last week. It was kind of the end of the show, kind of throwaway. But looking at this roster, I'm amazed at how they put it together, how they were able to string together some positions, which they have no business being, potentially 5 deep at defensive tackle because of the way that they approach things. And defensive end was one that popped up yesterday with Caleb Bacon getting some reps. And, you know, he's tussling for maybe a 4 or 5 spot with Alex McPherson. That's a pretty decent spot to be in, all things considered, because when you take a look at this roster, you got to grade on some sort of curve about who was all here in December. You know, you got the Iowa State guys, which seems to be the storyline, but at the same time, they've added pieces from all over that seem to be in line to play. Now, can they win double-digit games in the Big Ten? Still very much out for debate. That offense is going to have to kick up at some point, and they're going to have to stay healthy. But I'm encouraged by I guess the widespread depth that they've been able to sort of put up overnight, which is not how things have worked traditionally, especially in this area.
the thing they're good at is the thing they were doing yesterday, right? So this D-line is built to stop the run. And I had the same observation of, man, Caleb Bacon's on the third string D-line out here going up against some of these tackles. And, obviously going up against some interior offensive linemen as well. And we'll get into some of the details about that in just a little bit. But that was the takeaway, I think, for everybody. And we got some other ones on offense. But first, the thing that we gotta acknowledge is that we're not going to get to all the things that we saw yesterday because there was genuinely a lot. So there were 2 competitive periods where they were going thud. Thud means everything but a tackle. And sometimes for Davian Collins and Ike Eziogo, it means I'm going to tackle you anyway, where they wrap up and they're supposed to stop at contact. So like full contact for the offensive and defensive line, for the linebackers, receivers, again, it's tag off in space and things like that, but it was as full as you can go without doing a full scrimmage. They also did a one-on-one and inside run period. So as we were told before we went in, it was a very competitive practice, lots of things for us to learn. At the same time, so I was watching the offensive line from my perspective. I was standing behind in the end zone watching the offensive line. You get a good sense of what's actually happening from a play perspective and from a formation perspective. And then once the car crash happens, I don't know, guys. Like, I want to know, but without actual video to go back and say, okay, who was operating what block and where was the problem on the play? You do kind of, in that situation, have to watch the ball a little bit. We're not going to get to all of our insights and all of our observations because there's 3 of us, and I think I could fill up an hour just with mine because I am like wildly. I can fill up the space. How about that? So, if you want to continue this conversation with us later, I got this new thing, Nate. I'm trying to get out here. We got a QR code in the corner. So, if you want to sign up for BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, it is 75% off. If you're watching this in the evening, you have less than 36 hours left to subscribe for our camp deal, which is 75% off. I'm going to put the promo up here on the screen right now so you can read it while I'm saying it. It ends Wednesday night. So tomorrow we'll remind you in the morning with me and Greg, but really, like, you've got very limited time left if you want to join us for an amazing deal over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. $30 for the entire year, guys. Okay, so I want to pivot. Nate, what do you got?
A lot of people have signed up.
Yeah.
If you're a person who's easily influenced by what the crowd is doing,
the crowd is signing up for Blue White.
The crowd is they haven't had a chance to get to know me yet and unsubscribe, so join them. Come on in.
The great news is you get it for a year right off the bat. There's no 1-week trial period, any kind of thing like that. That's normally our deal. You're in for a year when you join us this week, and I think that there's no better way to do this. And for a lot of people, we also have had a ton of new subscribers now that football is happening on Matt Campbell here on the YouTube channel. A lot of people watching right now like the video. This from Austin Clark. What's the origin of you using your whole name and then T. Frank nickname? Well, it's a convoluted story, but basically in college, I got to college. My first instructor was in a radio class, and he read my full name, my full Christian name off the roster, and said, "That is way too long. I'm never going to call you that again." And within a week, I was T. Frank. And then that instructor also hired me for my first, or helped me got hired for my first job. So in State College, I just been known as T. Frank. But journalistically, you always use the first name, proper name first. So I introduced myself as Thomas Frank Carr. But everyone calls me T. Frank. And it is way too long of a conversation to have here on the show. We've got so much to get to. Nate, you had some thoughts over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. I'm going to come to you again here because I've been talking too long, and I want to talk about the offensive line, but I don't want to filibuster. So give me some of your thoughts.
I was going to say that you can take my time if you want your full hour and a half. Now, do you want me to say it or not?
Go for it.
Okay. Rocco Beck's going to run the football. I saw it yesterday, and I remember Taylor Mauser saying to you, Rocco Beck's going to run the football, and it's just like a light bulb. Like, wait a second. What if what they're saying is true?
Yeah.
And, it's like a delight for me because it just sets up the inevitable consternation of, oh my goodness, what happens if Rocco Beck gets hurt? Because he runs the football so much. And I think that that's a proposition they are willing and committed to living with.
Yeah. Especially now that Alex Mansky is back in full go. and is also running the football.
And he ran the football, and Connor Berry ran the football yesterday.
Everybody
and it
ran the football.
I mean, they're not running, Nebraska option, but
no,
they're out there and they're moving them around, and not just running the football, but getting them outside the pocket and doing a lot of misdirection stuff like that.
Yep.
Not to get in too deep into the weeds, but yeah, they're moving those quarterbacks around to give their receivers more time, give their running backs time to get out of the backfield and move that around. So it's, just going to 180 from last year, I'd say. Look, Drew was more mobile than we give him credit for, but at the same time, there is a limit to what he was able to do in that entire scenario. So I'm still skeptical that they're going to come out at least early in the season and try and, establish a run with the quarterback, but that will be part of it. And he's such a natural decision maker that it's going to come out.
That's what I was going to get to. Yeah. That's, I think, the biggest difference. And again, there's always going to be this comparative and desire to kick Drew Aller when he's down sort of situation. If there's one thing that I think is correct, he did not have a great feel for the option game, because there are times when you make decisions in the vacuum, right? And you are deciding between if I want to run the ball or if I want to give Nick Singleton the football. Do I want to give Katron Allen the football? And a lot of times, based on what was actually there, Drew didn't always make the right decision, and it was never as decisive as what we've seen. Because them running the football isn't any different than what we've seen from James Franklin's offenses in the past, in large part. Just generally, everyone in college and a lot of people in the NFL run the option. And so it's going to be part of the offense, and it's just going to be up to Rocco Becht when he wants to keep the ball and when it's most advantageous for the offense. And I do think, as Fitz said, there's more instinct there, more decision making from Becht. I'm infinitely curious.
Yeah, if you look in the chat, someone says weeks 1 through 3, OWL20 Y24 says weeks 1 to 3 less than 5 carries. Week 4 versus Wisconsin more than 5 carries. I mean, I think that you first off, taking sacks out of the equation because it's a college stat, but design runs, I think that he keeps it under the first couple of weeks, and then they kind of maybe open it up. But I think he still probably gets over 5 carries because of that instinct to just pull it down and get what he can get, which you'll take that. That's why you're a college quarterback, right? You sometimes got to take the hits and not be the pro guy that dances out of bounds. And again, that's not a shot at Drew, but a pro guy that dances out of bounds and
Drew
lives for another day. Yeah, Drew like contact. Yeah, Well, here's the thing: every time we make a comment about a quarterback, somebody's going to think it's a backhanded Drew. It's not.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And the nature of those runs is supposed to be that you have the option as a quarterback to get down. You're running in the alley, and there's not supposed to be a guy there if you keep the ball. That's the read, is that you're supposed to be able to get 4 or 5 yards, and then the quarterback's decision whether or not he wants to make that business decision beyond that. So we talked about the defensive line having a good day, and I want to get back to that in just a little bit, Fitz, because you got a chance to see, I think, in more detail from your side of the field. The offensive line, the biggest thing I took away from yesterday is they are not handing a job to Malachi Goodman. I still think ultimately he ends up there, but we have seen, I would say we've seen more players at left tackle other than Malachi Goodman through the first 3 practices. Now, he has been there for some installs and some individual but team periods, not with the defense, but the offensive line as a whole installing run. Been at left tackle for a lot of that. We know, I think, who the starting offensive line projection is. We've covered it a lot this offseason. But through these competitive periods, Anthony Donko started at left tackle for a lot of it with the first team. Garrett Sexton came in second at that left tackle position. Goodman came in third when it came into who was where on the offensive line at that left position. Now, Goodman did start with the first team on the right side. So if you want to go through an order procedure or guys who are in the pecking order, yes, I still think that he is strongly in the competition to be one of the starting 2 tackles. But left tackle specifically, they were mixing and matching everybody on that left side. And I do think part of yesterday and the offensive line maybe struggling a little bit to feel cohesive is because they were doing a fire drill at a lot of the positions. And I don't want that to be an out, because I still think that they were not great in between the tackles running the ball, but it is explainable through not only are they installing the offense is harder, but they're not consistently running the same 5 guys out there with the first team because they're trying to give everybody a look at these positions and see who can do it and who can't do it.
Right. And I think that you kind of sort of cultivate what you're trying to do for the 7 or 8 guys that you're going to roll with when push comes to shove. So first couple of weeks of camp, experimentation, and then move into essentially game prep and cutting that down to more of a true 2 deep. And again, I'm curious what they're going to do for interior depth. We've talked about this on the show before. Of course, you got Brock Reicher at center, Trevor Burr and Cooper Cousins at guard. After that, kind of moved them around. Will Tompkins was running some first team guard yesterday. You have Chimney Ono in their second team. Dom Ruli's been in and out. So nothing that kind of scares you. Via Ikakola has not been in there yet, and he really hasn't done anything at all, which, I think that's a guy that they're counting on at some point to factor into that situation. But Donnie Harbor's been out. So interior depth is one of the top things on my board in terms of what you're looking at to
and size
sort of remedy going in.
Those guys.
You got, Donk has played guard. Malachi Goodman has guard size, even though he's only been a tackle. It's
I meant size on the interior in terms of like 2 of your bruisers that you got in there of Ikakula and Harbor, both guys who are 325 plus, both are out. And then so you've got a couple of guys that are swing tackles in Will Tompkins and Chimdi Ono who have played inside outside. They're part of that unit in there and maybe don't bring the same oomph that I was expecting at the very least from that interior with some of that depth and progress that I thought they had made, kind of rebuilding the young guys behind the starting 2.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, you're looking at potentially sliding one of those tackles down there because I think is your third tackle better than your third or fourth guard? Possibly. I think that, and Dunk has done it before, so I think that's a guy that you throw in there. Yeah. Garrett Sexton, Owen Alessini, put him on the right side and go with that. So I just think that Ryan Clanton's throwing a bunch of stuff at a wall right now and seeing what sticks, but it's the time of year to do that. And I just think it'll look different in a couple of weeks.
What about, sorry, Nate, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, I think there's an interesting dynamic where, if you bring back a starting 5 offensive line, right, or bring back 4 pieces out of 5 on it, right, from one year to the next, it's like the talking point, right, for any college coach. And I'm not just saying Penn State, I'm saying anywhere. It's like, oh, well, the consistency, these guys have played together. This is like a thing that is a true strength of the team to have that carryover from one year to the next because they've all shared these experiences and had this time to rep and gel together. And Ryan Clanton and Matt Campbell, like pretty much everybody in the program is like, yeah, that's overblown. Like that's not a thing, right? Because these players can all play well. They're all good players in isolation, whether they've played together or not. Just they've diminished that talking point, I think, in their evaluation of what the potential of this group is. And so I think there's like a kind of an interesting push and pull of, I'm not sure which one is right, but they're counting on being able to do this mixing and there's no element of, hey, we got to figure out the starting 5 and figure it out now and get every possible rep with those players together as we possibly can. That's not their thing.
That's really that's kind of one of the things thank you. That was one of the things I wanted to touch on here because I do think that's across the board, Fitz. Like I saw also Siale Tapaki on the 3rd team defensive line at one point, and it feels like they're not necessarily interested. It's a little bit easier on defense because there is such an integration of the first and second team, especially at any position, outside of maybe 2 or 3. But it feels like there is at least a legitimacy to the every position's on the line. Everybody's got to prove it for the most part across the board, right? So like Rocco Becht, et cetera. I don't want to say like every position's on the line. But did you get the sense as well that they're putting where their money, where their mouth is of, we're going to give everybody a chance. And it's a fresh start for everybody here on the roster as far as snaps and reps and things like that.
Yeah, but you can also do that and also end up at the intended or expected lineup at the end of the day. Like you talk about the projected depth charts that we've been putting out, and what they've been rolling out there has been mighty close to what we've been saying, but also you're flip-flopping D tackles. You're playing different groups of D tackles with defensive ends and things of that nature. So there are certain positions where I think you can do that, and you have the numbers to do that, O-line, D-line, namely. But you mentioned linebacker. Like, I'm not sure that we've seen a first team that didn't have Tony Rojas beside Cooper Evil. Like that, those are the kind of things that we're talking about. Like, there's certain
receivers too, right?
Receivers too, corners. I mean, Darius Dixon was out yesterday, but Collins and Jameer Joseph, those three have been, in there. So you've got sort of a base to work with, but at the same time, where you can rotate, if you can rotate numbers, you kind of do that to figure out, oh, we missed something here. Or we had somebody else that we weren't sure could be a center. And now all of a sudden you've got, we saw Trevor Burr snapping yesterday. So like there's so many tinkering positions and so many positions that, you're going to get to the eventual outcome.
The eventual outcome of all of this is seeing the team during the stripe out on September 5th. And you can go to the game with SeatGeek. I want to make sure that everybody knows about this, so just give me 1 second to set all this stuff up. We got a promo code. I need to make sure I get the right promo code because we've got a lot of great sponsors this year, and I have bad attention to detail. Here it is on the screen. Code BWI for 10% off tickets at SeatGeek. Download the app. Use that promo code to get 10% off your first purchase. Link is in the description of the video. A bunch of other things you need to know about. But, the game is coming up. It's going to be a stripe out. The first game in the Matt Campbell era. Everyone wants to be there. I want to be there for historic events. I'm real bummed that I'm not going to be able to go to the opening of new Highmark Stadium for the Bills. That's a side point. I could probably get the great seats on SeatGeek. I physically can't be there. But you can go, maybe to that, maybe the game against Marshall. This is why I love SeatGeek, because they have more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek. So if you want to make a weekend of it, you're going to go to a game, you want to see what else is in State College that weekend, you can plan the whole trip around the game. People love to do that. 35 million downloads. SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app as well. So it's trusted and used by everybody. Speaking, Nate, of what everyone is doing, and you should follow the crowd. Download the app, use the promo code, and check out tickets. They also give you a value sense of they'll give you a green, yellow, red of this is a great seat and give you perspective of what's going on from that position as well. So make sure you check out SeatGeek. Nate, it's been a minute since we've talked about, I feel like it's been a minute since we talked about Anti-Fragile. So tell me about Anti-Fragile Brewing Company in downtown State College.
It's the best beer at downtown State College. It's the best beer in State College. It's the best beer in the region. It might be the best beer in Pennsylvania, the United States, or the world. It is on East Calder Way. If you are in town, student move-in is coming up. If you got kids that are going to school, Penn State, if you're coming in for a game in a couple of weeks, Marshall, September 5, just make your way down to Anti-Fragile Brewing Company. It's awesome. They've got a great selection, rotating selection of beers, all different types of stuff. They've got hazy IPAs, which I would call their specialty, but they've got a ton of other stuff that Fitz likes to drink because he's a more advanced palate.
Refined.
Yeah, he's just better than me. But they've also got cheesesteaks outside if you're hungry. Cheesesteaks are great. Uncle John's. They've got bread from Gemelli Bakery. It's all there. And in fact, I would like to prop that up a little bit. They're serving coffee in the morning now.
I love that.
It's legit stuff. So kombucha, beer, cheesesteaks, beer. What else do you want? Get it.
Yeah. I thought you were asking, sorry.
It's like
I thought you were asking me specifically of what more do you want?
Why do I even have to talk about
T-Rain, what's on your order? What are we putting in your order? Yeah.
My personal order, I love the hard kombucha. It's really good. It's, they make really good cocktails too because they use really fresh ingredients as well. I'm a stickler for that. You got to use really good spirits. You got to use really good fresh ingredients to get a good cocktail. And you're going to be paying a lot of money when you go and drink a cocktail anywhere. This stuff is worth the money. And it's not that expensive, when it comes to, you can get a beer for $8, you can get a drink for a little bit more, and it's really worth it. So if you're like me and you can't drink beer, they still have a ton of stuff that you can drink as well. So appreciate them for being a sponsor of the show. And like Nate said, make sure you go there and you tell them about us when you go there. Finally, I want to tell you about Lusk & Associates Realty. This is returning for round 2. I always appreciate people that believe in us and then believe in us again. So the purchase of a sale of our home is a major life milestone. And Luskin Associates, they are a powerhouse in Pennsylvania. Now they've moved into the State College area. So if you want to meet them and you want to see what they can offer you, here is their website. If you're watching it on the YouTube, you can meet the team here. Just click on their State College office tab. It'll take you where I am right now. Link is also in the description of the video. They're an excellent team and excellent people. Penn State fans. Ann is a Penn State superfan. Ann Lusk, who is the head real estate agent and retail professional here with Ann Lusk and Associates. And if you want expert advice, it's not even advice, Fitz. Like, what is, like, you need a Sherpa to go through a home purchasing process because there's 1,000 things that happen, and you need somebody who knows what the hell is going on, or else bad things can happen. And like I mentioned, these are proud supporters of all things blue and white. They have a knowledgeable team, detail-oriented agents here in the Happy Valley region. And if you want to get more information, you want to talk to them, 814-808-7588, or visit luskinassociates.com today. Luskin Associates, Sotheby International Realty, where experience meets excellence. Okay, so I'm going to throw out some hot takes now.
That's a spicy meatball!
Welcome to Hot Take Tuesday.
Why?
Why not, Nate? Why not? Why not? You know, because when I think you know how this works? When I think the phrase hot take, that's what pops into my head. When I was 7 years old and I watched The Mask and I hear, that's a spicy meatball, thinking about the hot takes I have in my head. Okay.
I can't.
So here's my first one. I think it's going to be either or at the running back position. Just generally, this is just, I'm going off the emotions. I don't have any facts here necessarily to back this up. But there is a split decision, it feels like, among the opinions on James Peoples and Quentin Martin behind Carson Hansen. I think it's going to be one or the other. I don't think both of them are going to split carries in an even share behind Hansen. And it's going to be not entirely winner take all, but pretty close. Like, that's kind of how I feel about that running back position now 5 days through camp, and the things I guess I'm picking up on, some of the subtle things. So I want to throw this to the group. Whoever wants to respond. Is it an either or at the running back position like I just said?
I could talk.
I was going to say something, and then the silence was actually really funny in my head, so I just kind of let it go. But no, I think so. Nate, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just the third plays, but it's not that's just not how it works. It's kind of the same as the receivers, right? You don't need 6 receivers. You need 2, and then a third would be great. Like at the end of the year, the stats just don't, especially when you have 3 tight ends that are all awesome. But that's a separate conversation. Per the running backs, yeah, I'm with you there, T. Frank. I mean, Carson Hansen's not losing reps to the third running back. So if Carson Hansen's going to get at least 58% of the touches, then
approximately
58%, maybe 57. We'll see how things shake out. Then yeah, that just doesn't leave a lot if the next guy, like the next 2 aren't splitting 21% apiece. That's just not.
Yeah,
I don't think that's how it works anywhere.
When you factor in how much Rocco Becht is going to run. And how he's going to be a featured part of the offense from the on the ground.
And those guys get banged up. I mean,
yes,
you're looking at a position that you have some. I mean, the durability that you got from those last 2 guys that were here was pretty unbelievable. I mean, only a couple of missed games throughout their 4-year career. Like, that's pretty ridiculous to think about that. So you've got that. And I think they've seen Quentin Martin and said, hey, how can we get the ball in his hands? And it might not just be as a traditional running back. We saw him all over the field yesterday. He's got to finish some opportunities and make the most of some opportunities, but that's how you grow your rep share, right? You make the plays as a traditional running back, and then you make yourself indispensable as a playmaker. So I think that's what you're looking at there. Peoples, they've tried to get him involved in the passing game. Poor guy just keeps getting blown up. And there's
hasn't been as effective for sure.
Not his fault. Yesterday, he took a handoff, and Caleb Bacon was like, "Hi, I'm in the backfield now." And then yesterday, he took a wide receiver screen, and Davian Collins was like, "Hi, I'm going to hit you harder than Caleb Bacon did." And it was very, very. I mean, you felt bad for the guy because it's like he's catching the ball and somebody's right on his tail, and right in his face, more likely. So we haven't really seen a ton from James Peoples except for kind of getting laid out a couple of times, which it's part of camp.
Yeah, that is, by the way, that's Collins' signature move, is to blow up screens. His reaction time and his ability to beat those blocks, like we saw that in games going back 2 years now. It is funny because he just doesn't have an off switch on that play, and it is really hard not to just run straight through the guy once you built up the momentum necessary to beat the block. This is, I guess, what I was thinking. This is kind of where my brain was going. Is there's last year where Carson Hansen and Abu Sama dominated the touches. 194 for Carson Hansen, 142 for Sama. And then 24, you had Jalen Jackson in the backfield who had 94 carries. And this is, again, going back before Carson Hansen kind of asserted himself in the lineup as the new number one back. You go back to 2023, and you had three guys that split reps, 105, 88, 86. So there are examples of a three-way monster in the backfield, or monster. They all played well in this situation. They all averaged a healthy chunk of yardage in 2023, but it was not necessarily a room that had a lead back. And so I think that is, everyone's got a favorite of those two young guys, and I just think it's going to be one or the other. The next one I have here. There is a split decision on the tackle position. Garrett Sexton has some favorites. I think there is a Garrett Sexton fan club within Penn State football that is giving him every opportunity to be in this competition at tackle. Yes or no to Garrett Sexton fan club?
Yes, but at the same time, I still think he's a backup, and it's one of those things where a couple weeks into camp, you'll probably just see him take more regular reps as a second teamer. So yeah, he's been out there quite a bit. He's been good. I had a piece yesterday where we talked about guys that have made a first impression or a good first impression in the first week, and Garrett Sexton is one of those guys. So you've got the potential to work in there, and again, another position where they grind him out. Somebody is going to miss some time at some point, and you've got to work your way around that. And that's not necessarily a one-to-one proposition when you're talking about the backup right tackle becomes the starting right tackle or whatever it might be. So I think that's where your stock in Garrett Sexton will come from, is like, hey, it's a hard season. He's going to get his shot eventually.
Yeah. Nate?
Well, I was just going to say, I think there's we're in the time of year where players outplay the expectations of some of the people watching them. And so there's a groundswell of that they hadn't seen Andrew Rapplier through the spring, right? He was out all spring. And so now it's like, wait, he's really good. How
about that?
How about that? He's really good. And then
playing football, you forgot your signature football line. Yeah.
But then you get into the season, and Ben Bramer is still the top guy, right? And so both are true at the same time, right? Garrett Sexton, is he gonna beat Malachi Goodman? He's not taking Donka's reps, right? Unless Donka's hurt and that lingers, then maybe there's opportunity there. I think this is the time of year where that kind of stuff happens, where then you get into the season. I remember asking, and this is just my naivete, it's like, man, to Phil Troutwine. I forgot his name.
You nailed naivete, and then you just,
I was going to say Troutwine.
Phil Troutwine is a hard name. It's
Trout, unless you put the Phil on there. Phil Trout doesn't do it.
No. But I asked him, I was like, hey, you got 10 guys like that, right? I mean, there were 10 offensive linemen that could all play, and they felt good about that. And he was like, well, yeah, if we get 8 or 9 or 10, I'll play them all. Anybody that deserves to play, I'll play them all. And then the season starts and they play 5, right? They play 6.
This is, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
Optimism and reality.
This is exactly what I'm trying to say, is that I think it's a little bit different here, where Garrett Sexton is the older player. He is not unathletic and not small, right? So, like, he's a top 70.
Athletic, some would say, yeah.
Some would say, right? So, but, like, I guess it's all comparative to Malachi Goodman, right? So it's all comparing him to the other guy in this conversation. Malachi Goodman is bigger and stronger and more athletic for that comparative position. And yet Garrett Sexton is also a starting Big Ten tackle from a talent perspective. And I just get the sense that it's not just lip service of we want to make sure everyone feels like they're involved, but I think Garrett Sexton is actually involved here. And they're trying to give him the opportunity to make a move, as opposed to before where it's like, we're going to give some guys some looks and things like that. That's, I guess, it's not a very hot take unless I push it to that area. And that's kind of what I get the sense of, what I'm saying. There's a fan club of people that want him to actually be pushing people, as opposed to before where it did kind of feel like at times, because everyone was established, the roster had been recruited by the same people, there was kind of a unified opinion, where this year I think there's some volatility in how people see certain players in certain positions.
We also don't know which one is the best because we haven't seen them in motion at the goal line yet. So
true.
That's where I would go with that.
Or
and the pushback on Nate's example when he's using the tight ends is, Bramer and Rappleyea, 2 very different players. Eventual outcomes probably the same. Somebody's got to catch the ball. You got to block. You got to do all this kind of stuff. By the way, it is a contact session for Andrew Rappleyea every time he goes out there. We've seen that in the practices that we've been out, and it's awesome. But just a very different player. So, like, you're asking Garrett Sexton not to be the same guy as Malachi Goodman, but to play the same role, to play the same spot, to run the same offense. Whereas Rappleyea, and then eventually Burkle as well, who they love, those guys will be more chess pieces than.
Yep. You can do different things at the same position there, for sure.
Correct.
Yeah. Does anyone else have a hot take they want to throw out? I have some ones that I don't want to go with just yet, but we can be done there if we want to move on to other stuff.
Is every receiver take a hot take? We're going to talk about that then?
I think so. That's where I was going to go next, is just the receiver conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the receiver conversation. I'll start with a relatively hot take, or not, maybe just the observation of Amarian Jackson's the real deal. He's been super consistent and had another really impressive play on Monday. I wrote about him on Thursday, I think it was, and no, I'm sorry, it was over the weekend, in just like freshmen that have stood out. And what I said was, he has not done anything athletically that's all that impressive. He's just always where he's supposed to be on time and catches the football. And then yesterday he beats somebody deep, mosses them for completion along the sideline with a single foot in bounds. From where I was anyway, I believe it was considered a catch. It was really impressive, and it was one of those standout plays from camp. Fitz, you had a better view of it?
I had a better view of it. I didn't think it was a catch. It doesn't matter. It would have gone to review in a game because maybe he got down and then he rolled over and the ball popped out, but it doesn't matter. The important thing is the view that I had was Christian Askew, the freshman corner that was in there, was like riding him the entire way down the field, had a hold of his chest plate and was holding him, would have drawn a flag, and he still kind of fought through that and made what would have been an excellent play if it was a catch. Like I said, jury's still out on that, but the important thing is it was close enough. It wasn't a drop. It was close enough to do that replay. So that's good.
Okay.
But yeah, Jackson.
People around me all said it was a catch, right? So that was why I was going off of that.
They didn't have refs out there yesterday that I remember, at least. Yeah. So like there was no official call, and I think the offense celebrated it as a catch. The defense celebrated it as a potential pass breakup. So everybody was happy. I guess we can go with that. Which everybody wins when everybody's happy, right?
Yeah.
Internet.
Yeah.
The ball popped out on the ground.
Yeah,
I did like that happened.
Well, that changes a lot of stuff.
Well, it depends. We can still have this conversation because we can talk for weeks into the season about what's the catch. Yeah, but it was also
generally
it was during the no cameras period, so we don't have, that play up and vanished.
It's old school. where everyone can have their own opinion about it for eternity.
I'm still waiting for the Eskildsen catch video to come out. I'm not sure.
Just gonna say
where that's at. Like the one from practice last week, which was definitely a catch, and it was pretty.
Yes. Yeah.
I want more Brett Eskildsen talk. That's
was just gonna go
my
there.
hot take. Go ahead,
yeah.
Frank. Who is Brett Eskildsen?
So I was just gonna say, like, I think the receivers had a bounce back day on Monday, and unfortunately, like, I'm ruining this. The pivot is Chase Soul was had a rough start, and then was pretty dominant in practice especially in the one-on-one period down where opposite of the inside run. He had a couple of really good catches and kind of flashed what he was supposed to do. But in that same drill, Brett Eskildsen absolutely toasted a defensive back where he won off the line of scrimmage, had a step and a half, caught the ball directly in the bucket at the back pylon for a no-doubter. That would have been a touchdown there. And then was good again in the team period. So, I think that of the consistency, Nate, I guess this is what I'm trying to figure out. Somebody asked me, like, so stock up for the receivers. And I'm like, well, we know it's a volatile stock. I've been saying this offseason it's a volatile stock. Matt Campbell on Friday said it's a volatile stock. So if you go by the day-by-day, yes, way up from Thursday. But if you zoom out, it's exactly what we expected. Like, volatility from the receiver position is exactly what we were getting, and we got just the other half of that, right? We got the upswing on Monday. And so within that, who are the consistent players? Eskildsen, to me, has been very consistent through camp so far, and also made the Bruce Feldman free flicks. And actually, you saw it, I think, on Monday in the one-on-ones.
I'm gonna tank our stock. Just get the games. Let's go. Enough.
Fitz, any thoughts on the receivers that you saw from your perspective? Because there's a lot of other stuff that happened in that team in those team periods. Kobe Howard, a lot of underneath passes that weren't deep shots, and I guess just your overall impression watching from your angle, what you saw.
Yeah, Kobe and Zay Robinson, kind of the operators closer to the line of scrimmage, the horizontal guys, maybe trying to get those guys to make a move after making the first guy miss. They've got that skill set where not everybody in that room does, and that's fine. That's a hard thing to learn because it's pretty natural. So those two have been in there. Keith Jones, I thought was pretty impressive yesterday. The Grambling transfer, who is a complete unknown, really. You take a look at him missing most of the spring. So that's kind of what's fascinating to me. Nate said it earlier. Matt Campbell kind of alluded to it in his press conference last week. Is they've got a bunch of guys that they just haven't seen. Keith Jones, one of them. Rappleyea was another one. They've got guys that missed the spring. And they get him back and they're like, oh, okay, well, maybe this is not what we thought it was, or maybe it's not what we saw in workouts in the summer. And can be a good thing. So I think that they're trying to figure out where Keith Jones fits. Karan Brooken's not with the program or not with the team right now, for some personal reasons back home. This is his opportunity. I think he's making a lot of it. I don't want to say making the most of it, but like making a lot of what he's been handed is the wrong word, but the opportunity that's in front of him. That's now here. If you were putting it on a graphic, yes.
Yeah. Honestly, it's funny. There's a lot to talk about with the receivers, and then it's just going blow by blow, line by line with them of what have we seen individually from each of them. And, that Keith, do you think Keith Jones will sustain that level of participation to when it matters? And this is just an open question, not a direct question, because I like what I've seen. And I think that as we've talked about,
there's an opening. Is it a play for this year? I'm not necessarily sure that it is. And that's kind of like when we talk about receivers, I think people are so gung-ho and want to hear that they're better. And we're just kind of sitting here saying, well, we're one step at a time here. But when you say that, hey, Amari Jackson's a real deal, you hear, well, shit, Allen Robinson's back. That's kind of the stuff that you hear. So we're taking this baby steps, even if it's not being interpreted as such. I think that's all of us, right? And Nate, I know that's you. Yeah,
it's never me.
I'm
all in.
It's important to say with a freshman, he's gonna play. That's I think he's going to be in the two. He has been running with the second team and standing out on the second team
right.
for every practice we've seen. He is a direct physical comparison to those top two guys. Big, fast, athletic. He's what they like. And so that is, I'm all gas, no brakes on that. Then it becomes like the receiver position overall and how you feel about how things are shaping up. And that's just like, Matt, it's hard to not go back to what Matt Campbell said is like, yeah, he's looks like a junior right now. What does it look like when it gets hard? And that was a step up, and I thought he still availed himself pretty well to be in position to try and make that play. And you don't get a ton of passing plays and things like that.
Yeah, and the expectations are set for Amarian Jackson differently than Chase Sowell. Like we went in, we see this guy as a fourth-year senior, and we expect not perfection, but like elevated consistency there. And he didn't show it in the practices that we were at last week. He had a better practice yesterday. But the expectation is different when you're talking about a guy that can catch 50 balls versus Amarian Jackson, where you set the expectation 15 to 20 and go from there, and anything else would be gravy. So like that is kind of where you're
so top
staggering
heavy.
These things.
Yeah, it's it's top heavy in the sense that like he's going to have a big factor on how people feel about the passing game and Penn State's receivers, because he and Eskildson are going to be the top two. And when you're kind of 50-50 on consistency there, but not talent, it's just, we are where we thought we were. I want to ask you this, Fitz, and this is not a joking question. This is serious, but also doesn't carry the same weight. How were they as blockers? Because I was watching the offensive line trying to get a good sense of that, but there were a lot of runs to the outside. You know, it wasn't just they running upside, the inside. They wanted to test the defense to the outside. Felt like they swarmed really well. The defense did to the football, but that also means guys are missing blocks. And so I guess I just wanted to get your perspective on some of those guys blocking on the outside, whether it's Rapp, Howard, the receivers, whatever.
Rapp is the one that you noticed. I mean, it's he's not a receiver, but he was out in space clearing people out. And I it's still a tough gauge because it's not quite a full contact drill for those guys on the outside. Every play it's keep them up. And that's going to impact your blocking. It's also very hard to do when you're moving. I thought Rappelier twice yesterday found a moving defender that was faster than him, and Zion Tracy, and the other one, I don't recall who he blocked. But he found him, he put a hat on him, and he put him off to the side pretty easily, which is a really tough thing to do when you're playing at essentially full speed. So there's that. As far as receiver blocking, I don't know. I came away with an observation last night about the corners not being afraid of contact, which is going to play into that. Like the corners got to the flat, they got to the line of scrimmage for the to stop the screen. So the corners were ultra aggressive. I'm sure blocking needs to be better for receivers for that to meet in the middle, if you will.
Yeah. Question here in the chat. By the way, like the video and subscribe here to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel if you haven't yet. A reminder for people who are here for the first time, we got a lot of new people since we talked about this. The QR code that's right by my head, right over here.
Nope.
Well, it is. That's where it is on my screen. I don't know. Anyway, the QR code in the top corner of the screen. That is a link to our 75% discount for joining BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. 75% off. That's $30. So that's a deal you can't find anywhere else. We would love it if you join us on the site. Full year for $30. Caustic wants to know, how's Qual doing? He's kind of in the Will Tompkins bucket for me of still like him, still needs to get bigger and stronger. His athleticism showed up in a couple of situations, but he's on the third team. He's primarily on the right side as I've seen him, and he still looks lean for a 6'6" offensive tackle. So just a project player that I think has a lot of upside, but if we're talking about the four deep, he's not necessarily in that conversation. And shouldn't be. Like, he's a redshirt freshman. You don't want to have all your redshirt freshmen in that conversation because you already have two with Alicini and Malachi Goodman. Any other thoughts on the defense? I've got some thoughts about the defensive line fits. I know we covered them briefly. We got our first chance to see pass rush, and I thought some of the younger guys flashed. I didn't know. You were looking at them more thoroughly, so I just wanted to get your thoughts on the D-line and pressure that we saw on the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I thought that was the top group on Monday when we saw them. I don't necessarily know that it was because of the pass rush. Now, Armstrong Nadim tossed Dom Ruley for the best rep that they had, I think, and got a sack out of it. So pressure up the middle can come from a guy like that. I'm not sure if it comes from Keanu Williams, not sure it comes from Siala Tapaki, but like there'll be some nice pieces for them to throw in there. And Armstrong is just getting back in the flow of things. He started camp kind of off to the side on his own, so he's back in the flow. So that's good. Max Granville, I think, is coming along and showing some of the good things that we really thought were there and expected. It's just a matter of getting back into that comfort level. And they were all over the place in terms of getting reps with different combinations there. I still think that Ike Eziogu, Yvonne Kamaju, the top guys, but we're going to see a lot of Max, and Bacon's going to work his way in there, and Alex McPherson as well. The Colorado transfer has been in there. So like, I don't want to put defensive end on a pedestal. It's still a question that I have about this team, because you got to stop the run first, and then you got to get to the quarterback. And we haven't seen them get to the quarterback in the quick twitch way that we're used to seeing Abdul and Chop and those guys get to the quarterback. So that's still a question that's out there. But to be talking about 5 guys right now is more than I expected for that group at
Nate,
this point.
I think we saw some Eziogu standing up yesterday, which I think is interesting. Like almost all of it looked to me, but it just must be different for him. He was
standing up. Liam Andrews was standing up at times. Like they've got different fronts where they will, pull a guy back, and that's why I thought Bacon would be really. But we've seen more of him as a traditional, 7 technique or whatever he's going to play. So like there's options there to, I think, kind of mirror that defense and figure out how you based on formation, offense formations, motion, things like that, you can get away with some of that stuff. So I don't think it's playing Jerome Hayes as an undersized stand-up DN, Tim Shaw as an undersized stand-up DN. It's kind of figuring out what the formation gives you and going from there, because Liam Andrews is 275 pounds. He's not small. Like Eziogu, certainly not small. He's a specimen. I mean, just like
unit is the right word there.
Yeah, and he's wearing number 1, which really helps. Like in terms of him being just kind of this massive guy that first off the bus type guy. I think that's
very monolithic looking. Like there's not a narrow part of his frame. He is strong, and I think is going to be. I think he started off the first or second play tackling Carson Hansen in the backfield. So the D line is going to be good against the run. It's a hot take that I didn't give earlier, but I think that it's not just camp. I think this front is good against the run. Like they're built to do that.
They clog it up differently than we're used to seeing.
Yeah, and that's plays for the linebackers to make. Guys can scrape over and tackle at the line of scrimmage, and so I think that's a big part of it that is underrated, because you're not going to get. Armstrong and Dean might get some of those tackles for loss, but a lot of it's going to be Tony Rojas and Caleb or Cooper Ebel in that situation. Fitz said all the guys that I noticed as well. Armstrong and Dean looks like the real deal. Like you said, he just looks like the real deal.
I wish we had more about the linebackers because that's a different position for Cooper Ebel this year. Kel Brazine is back. That's a different position for those guys. So how do they respond to having 315, 20-pound guys in front of them that are legitimately clogging things up? I mean, it's you mentioned watching the offensive line, and once the car crash starts, like it kind of all meshes in together. A lot of that's because of the defensive line and how they've played. Now, again, you've got an offensive line that's, I think, in transition, if you will, at this time during camp. So defense is going to have the upper hand. Again, it's easier to play on that defensive line than it is the offensive line. There we go. Or is the O-line?
There it is.
I
was waiting for it.
Let's go right to that one. No, I mean it's pretty natural at this situation at this point in camp.
Nate, any other final thoughts?
I don't think that's wrong to like wonder. We got to see. Everybody has it needs to play itself out. But I do like. I'm hesitant to get too far along for either side of the line of scrimmage, right? Like specifically the trenches of getting carried away. I think there's something
it's the whole this guy's good, so the other guy must be bad type thing. I don't buy into that. But yeah, I agree with you that the offensive line, work in progress, absolutely. Is it why the defensive line was dominating so much. Dominate might be a little bit of a stretch, but dominating so much on Monday, I don't necessarily know that I buy into that either.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're dumb.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Love you.
I've seen him do it before individually in different places. That's the thing. So Keanu Williams, I don't think nobody's moving Keanu Williams off the point of attack. Even Keanu Williams. He's just going to be in the middle. Siale Tapaki has been a really good run defender for UCLA. Watching them on film when Penn State went up against them, they were the part of the defense that actually worked. And that was saying something because there wasn't a whole lot about that defense that really worked. Ike Eziogu is a good run defender. We saw him play inside, and now he's outside. You've got some young guys on the other side. So 3 of the 4 have proven run defense ability. I just don't think it's a huge stretch. And then you got Armstrong Nadim, who was really good for a redshirt freshman last year and has gotten better and is in a better situation to make more plays in this defense where he's not a nose tackle and he's not just asked to hold a gap and then look in the backfield and try and make plays. He can actually use some of that athleticism and explosiveness in his front. So no, I don't think it's that the offensive line is bad. That might also be true, but that's going back to what Emirs is saying. Or the O-line is bad at run blocking. The binary of the choice, I don't think it's binary. I think the offensive line could struggle at run blocking, but I'm fairly convinced this is a good run defense. They're going to be good in the Big Ten at stopping the run. And going up against this defensive line is hard for this offensive line. So anyway, I am now back in the circle where I started the show. So I should probably not go around in the circle one more time as we end the show. Also, what are we looking forward to this week?
Disclaimer that they're 5 practices in, and 2 of those didn't have pads. So
yeah, but it's Hot Take Tuesday.
Get there. It's going to be a long month. It's going to be a long month if this is the pace that we're trying to keep up with.
For sure. We'll have more with Greg tomorrow, and of course the recruiting show on Thursday. We have 2 more availabilities with Penn State football. Matt Campbell speaks on Thursday. This week we have assistants on Wednesday, and of course we still have Media Day stuff that we're working through. Nate, what are you working on right now?
I just want to know how they match up with Michigan. I think that's what's most important this week.
Yeah. I think that's a fair and reasonable thing to find out, especially knowing exactly what Michigan is at this point.
Which we all do know.
Fitz, save me here. Give me a good outro.
I got nothing.
All right. As Thanos once said, fine, I'll do it myself. Some of the things I got over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com talked to about the linebackers, some questions about the linebackers. It has been confusing to try and figure out where they're lining up and why they're lining up where they are. And some of the things that we thought about the defense, they weren't even doing in the spring based on some of the conversations I had with Tyson Veit, the linebacker coach, over during Media Day on Friday. So that's up at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com right now. Greg has some wrestling stuff. You can subscribe. Here we go. Now I got it. I unmirrored my camera. So right here, you can subscribe for just $30 at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. I'm Thomas Frank Carr for Nate Bauer and Sean Fitz. We'll be back with more to talk about Penn State football. We'll talk to you then.